I did not like Kingdom Come Deliverance. That's a pretty big hot take to open this video with. And don't get me wrong, the recipe is there. Historical RPG in one of my favorite historical eras with lots of emphasis on medieval lore and accuracy. As a huge RPG, history, and gaming nerd, it felt like a home run for me. But it just didn't stick. Across the clunky combat system, the weighty mechanics, the slow start to the game, a confusing UI, I just didn't understand the hype. But all that has changed with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, a game that I feel has taken all of the shortcomings of the first one and improved upon them while simultaneously making their strengths, well, stronger. In my typical fashion of upfronting the knowledge in my videos, let me give you the too long didn't watch of this entire video. After consuming tons of preview footage from content creators that have been given access to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 so far, everything about the game looks amazing. The weighty mechanics are still there, but they seem a lot more streamlined. The combat system looks fine-tuned as well, appearing less clunky and more fluid. And the UI looks a lot more inspired, working for the player rather than against them. The statement I keep hearing is that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 feels like a Red Dead Redemption 2. You're playing a true medieval sandbox, which is evident the second you play through the game's narrative prologue, which acts as a tutorial for a lot of the basic mechanics of the game. So if you want to play a sandbox RPG in the vein of a Skyrim without dragons or Red Dead Redemption without wagons, then Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 looks like it's going to consume your entire life. I know it'll consume mine. Two big warnings up front that a lot of other creators have echoed. The game is difficult. You're not playing some paladin or hero, you're a peasant that slowly gets better at all of the ways of playing this game. You can become quite good at whatever it is you want to focus on, but don't expect to be anything short of terrible at the start of the game. Also, this game won't walk you through everything available to you. Talking to an NPC might drop a pin on the map for you to go investigate, or by overhearing conversations about points of interests and ranging out on your own are a lot of the kind of spice of this series that you'll need to pursue versus the rinse and repeating quests in a quest hub that we get from a lot of other RPGs. You have a lot of player agency here, so the developers expect you to use it. But that's the down and dirty of this entire video. If that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to shut the video down. I'll be covering tons of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 when the game goes live February 4th. So be on the lookout for plenty of guides to beat off that learning curve. I said what I said. Feel free to jump ahead to any part of this video that interests you the most using these chapters in both the timeline and the description. And if you are heading out, or if you find the information in this video helpful, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe, as each one of those things helps me in a huge way. Lastly, don't forget to check me out on Twitch, linked in the pinned comment and description below. Well, let's get started on Will Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 be better than Game 1? And going into that, we'll talk about combat. Combat for this era and this time and this video game are all very big linchpins, right? The combat in Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 takes a long time to get into, and it's very clunky, and it could be a symptom of me playing the game handfuls of years after it came out. My first time playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 was in 2021, and the game came out oh man, I want to say in 2015, as I type in release date onto Google. It came out in 2018. So it just feels like a lot less of a streamlined presentation, with so many medieval games out there that feel a lot more enjoyable. Chivalry 1 and 2, even For Honor, has a much better combat system than Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 does. And you can see a lot of the footage that you're watching right now. This is actually from later in the game from Kingdom Come Deliverance 1. Once you learn more combos, your character has more skill under their belt. They can move faster. They can slow down their reaction time. But the beginning of the game, you fight against a raider and you get your ass handed to you. And it is such a struggle because you don't encounter anything with combat until like the latter portions of the quote unquote tutorial. It's like you're like 4, 5, 6 hours in before you even touch a weapon. And that was very frustrating for me coming into Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, especially someone that has fight certifications with broadswords, someone that knows a lot about the historical presentation of these weapons and how this fighting all went down. I was like, oh yeah, let me get into this fighting. It's gonna be fucking cool. And it wasn't. And it was honestly the rock that I bounced off of the hardest with Kingdom Come Deliverance 1. And it took me forever to gain momentum back into it. And I floundered and never really completed the game. But with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, that seems to not be the case. From all the stuff that I've seen and consumed from all these other content creators like ESO and Fextra Life, they were saying that you just jump into that combat pretty quickly in the narrative's prologue, in that kind of intro session. You immediately get dipped into combat, which I think is great, because if it's hard in the first hour or two of the game, I think that's a little more acceptable, versus, okay, it's difficult 4 hours in and you're like, oh man, I thought I was over most of the learning curve. And the game, of course, is still hard. Like it's not an easy thing when it comes to the combat of the game, because you have to learn how you're going to attack someone, how riposte works, how all the blocking works, how all the timing is done. But people that are coming from any of the more major action RPGs, which become very timing heavy nowadays, they'll be able to sock it into this quite quick, I think. And with the way that the combat works, it's very, not situational, but it's target oriented. You're going to attack top, bottom, left, or right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 6A, for those that know those things. So you kind of really get the ability to chain things together, try and read your opponent, see how they're attacking, respond to their attacks, defend, riposte against them, dodge away, whatever it is. The combat just seems way more streamlined and a lot more fluid than before, which felt otherwise very clunky. You'd swing once and you're completely out of stamina. You'd swing 2-3 times, okay, you're out of stamina and you get killed quickly. The game does a better job of opening you up to this so you can understand how to time your attacks, how to deal with these situations, rather than just simply swing a sword a bunch of times, click a bunch of times because we played Elden Ring or whatever, and trying to get a learning of the pace. Like, nay, it seems far better as well as a early exposure, but as far as an overall system within the game, it just feels like it's going to actually be rewarding, rather than just simply, okay, I have to beat this learning curve to learn this system, and then the reward comes later. It feels, again, like a more gradual learning curve versus an immediate steep hill of one. And the combat's going to be the biggest driving force for a lot of people, right? You're playing a medieval combat simulator game. You'd want that to be a big portion of it. And I'll get into how you might not want to play like that once we get into the next section here. But all these things kind of come together for a presentation style for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 that looks to be a lot better, a lot more fluid, and a lot stronger. And like I was saying previously, this all comes around to how you're going to play Kingdom Come Deliverance. In everything that I've seen, it just seems like so much more of an open game. It drops you right into it from the start. You finish your prologue and then you're bam, in the middle of the map, go have some fun. And I think I relate to that play style way better than trying to hobble my way through a blacksmith's son's narrative, rags to riches style of story, which is still Kingdom Come Deliverance 2's bones. But the first game is like, it's like, okay, I'm using a hot poker and now I'm fighting against a cumin raider like 4 hours later. So those things kind of really, I think, really kind of gave me hard stops, because I was having such a hard time clicking into it. Versus this game looks, or the presentation style looks like it's just going to say, hey, you've now learned every single pretty much basic portion of this game. Have fun, go do what you want. And that's a lot of what I keep hearing echoed, is you can choose how to approach this. You do not need to be some variation of a good guy. You can be a terrible person. You can be a thieving bandit. You can be a highwayman. You can be a blacksmith. You can sit there and spend all this time in town and really make a lot of money just doing your trade craft if you want. You can go ahead and harvest tons of resources and use those as you see fit. The game seems to open itself up to you in a way that the first one didn't right out the gate. The first one took time to get, like, basically through gated content to get to a freedom, versus the second one's like play as you will immediately. And I think that's a really good way to approach a game like this. No one wants to feel like they kind of are just playing with half of a system. The game introduces you to systems, and Fextra Life was saying, like, there's so much stuff that's thrown at you immediately, it's a little overwhelming, but I just push through it and I'll learn it as I want to interact with that system, which I think is good, right? Like, oh, okay, here's all the information about the dice game. Well, I don't want to play with that thing right now. Oh, okay, well, when I want to actually play with it, it's available to me right there. I press a button, boom, there's the information, good to go. So I actually like that. I prefer that if you're going to overwhelm me, let me push through it and let me choose when I want to tap into it, versus like if I did not read that, there's no way for me to access that information. So it seems that the developers of Kingdom Come Deliverance, Warhorse Studios, have really opened that door up to you, so that you can really decide how you want to go about that. which again, huge. And another big thing too is there's a lot of systems in Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 and in 2. But 1, if you've played KCD 1, which I'm just going to say from now going forward KCD or KCD 2, if you read like a Steam guide, it tells you, okay, you have to jump into the first town, or in the first town, loot every single herb you can find. This is going to give you tons of strength and tons of agility. And then once you do that, you're going to get this feat and that feat. There's too much of a min-max to playing KCD 1 because of the way the game presentation style works and the way that the game's leveling system works, the way that you kind of tap into all these things. And if you don't really do those things in the beginning, your character is not terrible, but they just start at such a lower, that they have a much harder curve against you. So you kind of have to do these things. And so KCD 1 in the very beginning of the game, if you play through now, reading any of these little guides, becomes basically like a herb gathering simulator, and it's really frustrating. Whereas KCD 2 has a lot of these systems, from what I've read and seen, that seem to overlap with each other. So hey, you know what? If you're going to be a character that plays like this, the game will naturally reward you experience in the attributes that contribute to it. Or if you want to play a character that is wearing heavy armor and doing all these things, then the game's systems will reward you by giving you experience towards it. So the game fluidly wants you to move in a direction that you've chosen, versus I have to do these things to unlock the gate to use these other things. No, KCD 2 rewards you for playing in the way that you want to play, which I think is a huge, the biggest boon and the biggest step forward for the series, the game, the whatever, is that it's not, like I said, shoehorning you into a single style of play. It's, in fact, it's forcing you to play how you want and rewarding you for doing so, which I think is one of the biggest, coolest things that this game has going for it. And it's the thing that has excited me the most, because to me, I mean, I'm a really big Ultima fan. I grew up playing all the Ultima games. I grew up playing Ultima Online way too much, maybe way too early in my life. So I look for games that play like Ultima Online did. Skyrim, in its own way, did that, right? Where you level up your individual skills and those level up your level. And KCD has that similar system, but there's just something about the sandbox of this game where there are lots of ramifications for doing little things. And let's talk about that too, as that's a big step forward for the series as well. So one of the big things that a lot of other content creators have been talking about too is how the game world is very much alive. The game will go about its own process. And if you miss anything, you just weren't in that location at that time, and things are going to go on and happen. So that gives you a ton of replayability. So maybe you go through the game the first time as a knight in shining armor, let's just say. And the second time you do the old Elder Scrolls special with a stealth archer. Well, maybe by being a stealth archer, you spent more time in town. And now, because you're in town more, you're stealing things. And because you're stealing things, you're around more of the things that happen in town. So you see the things that happen in town. Versus maybe your knight in shining armor character was, forging the countryside and killing bandits and doing all this stuff. So you experienced different sets of situations that were only present at that very specific point in time in the video game. So I think the fact that the world is so alive and the world does reward you for like kind of playing into those locations is pretty cool. And also one of the big things, again, Fextra Life was saying, was how the AI recognizes that it's an AI. I mean, that makes it sound like it's self-aware. I mean that the AI recognizes things. So he was talking about a moment where he knocked someone unconscious, completely looted them, and then left. Left them be, and then started to walk through town, and people recognized the clothes. They're like, yo, that's so-and-so's clothes. And he got like attacked by the guards for it. And that's a really cool bit of information. It makes the game feel alive. It makes the game feel really awesome, but it kind of, I keep using Skyrim as a reference point because I think it's something that everyone's played enough that I can use an easy reference with it. But it's like the old meme where it's like, oh, just put like a wicker basket on the merchant's head, and now they can't see anything, and you could rob them blind, take the wicker basket off, and sell everything back to them. Like that. The game doesn't have that because the game recognizes some sort of like ownership tag or some sort of recognition where, oh, I know that coat that belongs to so and so, and he's dead, and just blood on that. Someone call the guards. Like there's a really cool kind of open worldness, not just simply the game itself, but just the interactions with you, the NPCs, and your relationship with them. Reputation is a very big thing in Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, and it seems to be as big of a thing, if not bigger, here in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, with how that reputation has long-term ramifications for your character, not just simply buying and selling, but the things accessible to them. Again, opening the door to that replayability for the game that really excites me. I have no idea how long this game is going to be. I imagine it's going to be massive. Even if it is massive, though, I mean, again, Skyrim, as a reference point, was a massive game. But how many times did you make another character in the middle of making another character? We had simultaneous playthroughs going through every time we sit down to play Skyrim again. And I think we'll probably be seeing that too for Kingdom Come Deliverance. Now, if you did not play the first one, the second one will have, from everything I've seen, the same save style, meaning you will save whenever you go to bed. There are certain auto saves that the game will automatically do for you at very random points, but you only way to save is if you have a special concoction, which gets us into the difficulty of the game. So we talked about the combat. The combat is very difficult. We talked about the game itself. It has a lot of overlapping systems and all these things. But the game is very unforgiving. And I don't want to use, I'm going to use the term doesn't hold your hand, but I think that's a really blown out term recently that doesn't really, it just has too many definitions. But as it pertains to KCD, the game does not really spell out every little thing. For the major stories and quests, it will. You don't worry about that. You're not going to miss a minor quest you picked up. You're not going to miss a major quest you picked up. And journal entries are there aplenty. But little stuff in the world seems to be presented to you. Like Affection Life was talking about, you have to overhear stuff. And if you don't overhear stuff and kind of write it down, then that thing you'll probably never encounter unless it's by random happenstance. Or if you talk to an NPC, the NPC might give you a point of interest. They might not. So you have to write those little things down. And that's a holdover too, like I was saying, from like an Ultima style of RPG where you're just getting information thrown your way. There's no in-game journal. You have to write little bits here and there down. So there's a lot of like, hey, I've played the game up to this point. I'm going to take a break for a month. And you come back to it like, man, unless you got that reference sheet somewhere, you might not know where the hell you are, what the hell you're doing. So there is that challenge right there. And like I was saying too about the save portion, I don't think I completed my thought here, was that there are save concoctions. You use like a potion to save the game manually. You can save and exit. The game shuts down and you've saved right there. You get like those little random auto saves. Resting in a bed will sometimes save the game for you. So you have points that the game does save, but you can very easily go through 45 minutes, an hour and a half of gameplay, not have saved through whatever the means of the game would save for you, and then die, and you have to roll back about 45 minutes to an hour of gameplay. So while all this stuff is exciting and fun and cool, and I'm really stoked on Kingdom Come Deliverance, I think it's kind of like Dragon's Dogma 2 when it came out. A lot of people got swept up in the hype without realizing what the game actually was at its base level. And it's going to be the same thing, I think, here for Kingdom Come Deliverance. People are going to come into it really excited because I've seen so much cool stuff. There's a lot of really awesome hype. A lot of their favorite game channels or maybe their favorite streamers are talking about it. But there is a very hardcore aspect of Kingdom Come Deliverance that you really need to be aware of before jumping into it, because it's going to punish you and you're going to bounce off the game because you weren't expecting that. So I want to really temper those expectations, because it wasn't something that pushed me away from Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, because I'm used to, having my nutsack kicked in mercilessly by video games, because I guess I'm sadistic now at this point. But it was definitely something that the saving mechanics was something I was like, oh, okay, it's 2004 again? Got it, cool. Like you have to kind of change the way your brain's going to adapt to those saving mechanics. And even, you can kind of cheese it a little bit, right? You can save and quit and boot the game back up if you have a fast enough rig that doesn't bother you. So keep all those things in mind, because I'm sure they're going to come over to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 in whatever way, shape, or form. I don't know the full translation of a 1-to-1. I don't know if there's more accessibility to save potions. I don't really know those facts yet. It was mentioned here and there in some videos that it's just the same save format. So again, I don't know if there is more expansion there, but that brings us, that kind of gives us a wrap up of what that difficulty is going to be like. It's not necessarily that the combat is just the only thing that's going to be hard. It's that the game's presentation and how you're going to approach it are going to be difficult if you're not necessarily, quote unquote, paying attention. if it's a game where you're doing a lot of third screen time, where you're on your phone or something like that, I think the game, you'll lose a lot of the little minutia of the game, and I think you'll be like, oh man, I don't know what I'm doing right now, because the game was trying to tell you, and if you weren't like locked in, it's easy to glaze over it. But at that, it brings our video here to a close, and I'm really excited about the game. And I'm going to tell you, I was not excited about the game a week and a half ago. I was like, okay, enough people are talking about this. Maybe I should really put effort into really looking at this game and giving it a second shot. Maybe there's like a third shot, to be honest. And taking a look about if this game really clicks with me, because like I said before, it has all the recipes that work for me as a player, a gamer, whatever. If you're on my channel and you've watched any of my Crusader Kings 3 content, you know I love history. You know I love this era. You know I know way too much about it. So this seems like such a shoe-in for me, because I am a huge RPG, a huge action adventure style of gamer. So all this stuff clicks. And jumping into the first game, it did not. Watching all the footage of the second game, it has started to really tickle my pickle, because it really seems like it's got that open world. It seems like it's got a lot of corrections, a lot of the systems that were previously very clunky and very individualized. Like I was saying, that seems like things are pushed together in a really cool way to make the game feel fluid, rather than feeling like, okay, I have to grind out that, then go grind out that, then go grind out that. And the game is, KCD1 is very manual. You will manually do everything. You are not going to, let me give an example here. You like think of crafting menu in Baldur's Gate 3. You press like 3 buttons, you've crafted a potion. Everything in KCD is just manual, and like you are manually going to press every little thing to do every little thing, because that is the way the game is. You don't gather herbs in a location. You don't press herbs and they appear in your backpack. You press E, your character goes through like a half-second cutscene, drops down to their knee, gathers the herbs, and you go back and keep doing it. You do that rinse and repeat. So there is a slowness to this game that I think at first blush, it will be brash for a lot of us. And I know it's the one thing I'm really worried about jumping into the second one. But I think pushing through the slowness looks like it's going to open up a game that is huge, fun, and exciting. But go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. Are you really excited about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2? Do you think it's not going to click for you the same way that the first one did? Whatever it is, let it be known. And if there's other things that really hyped you up about this that I didn't bring up, let it be known as well. I like to disseminate as much information out to the people as possible. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Be on the lookout for tons of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 information, guides, all that kind of stuff when the game comes out. I'm going to be going hard in the paint on all that action. But have a good one and take care.